how can leaders unite people right now in times like this crisis? How can leaders act to unite more?
Well, first of all, if you want to lead in a crisis, you have to decide what direction you want to lead in. The leaders have to reflect the values that these young people are calling for. The leaders have to be committed to uniting, not dividing. They have to remember that diverse societies are better positioned for a complicated world than those in which everybody looks the same, thinks the same, behaves the same, and in which leaders become leaders by saying it's a world of us versus them. Leaders first have to ask, what can I do to expand the number of us and shrink the number of them? I think once you make that decision, if you listen well, people have their own ideas about the future they want, how they want to get there. But the number one thing today is to, in word and action, reflect the unity everybody says they want, but many people don't.
President Bill Clinton joined Hans for the final of our commencement series Friday. Along the way, we heard from Hugh Evans, Kevin Love, William Lauder, and Katie Sowers. Of course, congrats to all of our various grads out there. We're seeing some photos of some proud V-teamers shared these photos with us of their kids going on to high school, college, going from fourth grade. Even some of our very own employees here, like Slim, who's one of our technicians in the city. He recently completed a degree, so that's great to see. Reminder: starting July 2nd, college students can benefit from Verizon's best pricing on unlimited with up to $25 off our wireless unlimited plans. Good afternoon, good morning, and good night. It's 12:02 on the East Coast. Here we are on Monday, June 15th. Welcome to Up to Speed Live. Today we'll be joined by Rose Kirk as well as Christy, talking about our new social justice volunteer opportunities. Want to start though with Christy. Christy, some exciting news this morning out of the Supreme Court. Tell us more about that. How are you?
Jeremy, I'm doing great. Thanks so much. And yes, how exciting. Just less than 2 hours ago, it came out that the Supreme Court issued a decision on a long-awaited topic that many of us have been working on for years. And they have upheld a decision that says that the 1964 civil rights law does, in fact, cover LGBTQ workers. So this is a huge step forward in the fight for equality for our LGBTQ employees and members of society. What this says is that, and I'm going to quote Neil Gorsuch of the Supreme Court, who wrote in the decision today, quote, "Today we must decide whether an employer can fire someone simply for being homosexual or transgender. The answer is clear. An employer who fires an individual for being homosexual or transgender fires that person for traits or actions it would not have questioned in members of a different sex. Sex plays a necessary and undisguisable role in the decision, exactly what Title VII forbids." And so this is just such an incredible milestone, and this is something that we already have included in our non-discrimination policies and practices. And so for everybody out there, I'm wearing my Pride shirt. I'm really excited that this decision's come out during Pride Month. And you saw last week with Craig Silliman and the leaders of our ERG that we have a lot planned for the month, and so excited. And really, to be honest, it should give all of us hope. When we work together with a long-term vision for what equality looks like, we can achieve it. There were a lot of dark moments on the journey to get to this decision today. And so I know a lot of V-teamers and people out there watching will be very excited that we've achieved this milestone. I want to also talk a little bit about COVID, and then I want to spend some time talking about our plan for Forward Together in support of racial justice, and then have Rose add some comments from there on a number of things she and I are working together on. But as a reminder, we still are living in the time of COVID. And as a V team, we take very seriously making sure we are all operating safely and going about our lives as well as our business in a way that keeps our people safe and healthy. So last week was a big milestone. We made communications to our Office workers that would be returning July 6th on a rotating basis. Remember, 25% maximum. So everybody got assigned to a group A, B, C, or D if you're in the category of workers that typically work from an office and are not on our call center teams. That does not start till July 6th. We have some people piloting practices with us in June, and we're continuing to debug those practices. And we've been continuing to do our touchless retail and expand and reopen our retail footprint as states have relaxed their shelter-in-place provisions, as well as continue to get back to our dispatch and service calls, including entering homes and premises of businesses. So really just an incredibly busy time on that front as well. And so a couple of reminders. We have facial coverings that we want to make sure people are wearing. We also have sanitation equipment and other guidelines for different jobs. We've got signage in facilities. And we're really asking people to take time out and make sure they understand we've got some training, and make sure all of us as a V team take good care of ourselves so that we can also be good contributors to our work environment collectively. And so a reminder, if you're not feeling well, don't come into work. If you have a temperature, don't come to work. If you need a thermometer to be able to take a temperature, you can order one from our catalog and it will be sent to you so you can do all of that. And as a reminder, our COVID webpage can tell you everything that you need to know and where you can ask your questions, including the Ask Christy box. So, Jeremy, while we've been living with COVID for a long time and we may think it's in the rearview mirror, we want to remind everybody it's not, and we're still battling that, and we want to be here supporting everybody. And then finally, if I could, I'd love to call up a slide that I shared on Thursday's Up to Speed. And I really just want to highlight that at Verizon, we've already taken a lot of actions over the last 2 weeks, and we've had some really courageous conversations led by the leaders of our BOLD ERG and many other leaders around the company, really opening the dialogue and really talking about why are we still here today in 2020, and why are people having different experiences in our country and in our society based on their race. And I think so many of us have joined these conversations because we're committed to having that be something we help put an end to. And so we've started conversations on Friday on Up to Speed. We've started the ERG conversations, leader conversations. We're doing ally training. We piloted last week. And we also heard from Hans, Clarence Otis, our lead director. We also heard from a number of our senior leaders in the company like Krista Bourne and Wendy Chichetta, Eric Sivas, Shane Sanders, and others. And these conversations will continue. And so on the next page, if I could call this page up, I want to share for anyone that didn't have an opportunity to watch the recast of Thursday, that the leaders of Verizon, along with input from our employees that have written to us or shared with us, and the BOLD ERG leaders and members, we've put an action plan together. And this action plan really has 3 components. The first is to continue the conversation. We know in times like this, and we even heard from President Clinton in his graduation remarks that you just shared, Jeremy, it's so important to listen and learn and bring as many people as possible to the us and be united together with a vision toward where we're going. And so these conversations, we think, are essential to doing that and allowing people to get educated and be willing to talk about things that might make us uncomfortable. But through that being uncomfortable and having conversations, we will be stronger and we will come out better. Second, we have a whole commitment to making sure that we bring to life inside Verizon the society that we want to see and live in. And that means we want all of our V-teamers, and especially our employees from our Black and African American communities, to understand how we're doing outreach and diverse hiring, how we're making sure that employees understand unconscious bias, or how to be an ally in ways in which they can advocate for racial justice. We also want to do a great job of developing our people. And we also know in these times, employees are asking for support. They're saying they or their families are really struggling. This is incredibly stressful. And they want some places to go, resources to help them, or people to talk to. And then finally, and this is really just such a great partnership with Rose and the entire organization she leads, and the public policy team with Craig Silliman. But with Rose and Diego's leadership, we have an entire plan around social responsibility and how Verizon supports society. And that is no different here. We want to be a business and a thought leader. And we're going to have community engagement, which Rose will talk more about today. And so I will allow her to do that. But we've got a 3-part action plan. And Jeremy, what I feel really I want all the V-teamers out there to know is we're only going to get through this when we do it together. Last piece of news before I turn it back to you, Jeremy, and over to Rose, is if you could pull up my last slide. At the end of this week is Juneteenth. And we are really committed to and partnering with our people and our employees around the company to have a strong engagement around this. This is a day called Juneteenth, which commemorates the end of slavery in the United States. And again, while we have made a lot of progress, the hard work of ensuring equality and justice for all is not over, particularly for the Black community. And we know, even just with recent events over this past weekend, that this continues to plague our society. And so in recognition of this day, Ram Jean-Louis, who leads Global Diversity and Inclusion at Verizon Media, will join Up to Speed, and he'll share his thoughts and how we can move the conversation forward and what we're going to continue to do that. Our Bold ERG is also planning a Census Day event. This will be to highlight the importance of participating in the census and voting, especially in local elections. We will also have speakers at the event from such prominent organizations as the NAACP and the National Urban League. And Rose will also talk about the partnerships we have with those organizations. We also piloted the Ally training last week. More information will be forthcoming on that. So Jeremy, I'm going to flip it back to you. Lots going on, tons of activity, and really just us coming out as a strong V team to say, let's put into action what we value and the way we want to be part of creating the world we want to live in. And much like we just realized this success on Title VII for the LGBTQ community, when we work together, I know we can make a difference. And I look forward to all of you helping us bring that to life.
Lots of great news and updates there from you today, Christy. Thanks so much for that. I want to bring in Rose Kirk to the conversation now. Rose, a lot of questions from folks about how they can help and make a difference, and that's what you're going to be talking about today, I know. But how are you?
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you so much for asking that question. I appreciate that. Listen, no doubt about it, these weeks have been really heavy, and it's required all of us to confront some conversations that were long overdue, but were necessary to drive change. So I'm just really proud of my colleagues, many of whom Christy just named, who have and continue to step forward to share their thoughts and experiences and stories. And it's not easy, right, putting yourself out there, but the only way forward is to really acknowledge what needs to change. And the good news is that, Verizon didn't waste any time debating what needs to change within our walls because we're committed to equality. And when you are committed to equality, then you are also committed to accountability. They go hand in hand. So, Christy, thank you so much for your leadership and your work and what you've done and how you're helping to lead the company forward. So look, how do we turn sort of pain into purpose? I think Christy, Magda, Dunlight, and I have been really thinking about this comprehensive action plan that was shared with you the other week. It's how do we define these opportunities for ourselves? And the good news is that this is not new territory for us. We have been in this space for a while. Now we get to drive it even bigger, go after real change, sustainable change, and then bring more of our V-teamers into the mix. So one of the things that we have done is curate all of these virtual volunteer opportunities that focus on racial and social justice reform. And let me just tell the V-teamers that you are doing a tremendous job of engaging with us in volunteerism right now. We have well over 100,000 hours, toward our goal of getting to 460 or so thousand. You're all in. You're helping make a difference. So this is an opportunity to do even more. The events that were curated range from helping people register to vote, which, let's be honest about that is everyone's right to vote. Our country is built upon those principles, and we shouldn't shy away from really making sure that folks understand how to vote and that they're participating in their city elections, their local elections, their state elections, the federal elections. So we have some events where you can engage and help people do that. And then Christy referenced the census. It is so important that we engage with the census and we actually complete that 2020 census. So there are opportunities for you to engage and to help ensure that happens. You can help preserve a piece of Black history by transcribing letters from slaves and even Black soldiers from the Civil War. You know, we have to know what our past is in order to understand why we're here and how we go forward. And so you can do that. So listen, later today, you are going to get an email from me with more information. You can also head over to VZ Web, the street, or our Verizon volunteer portal at verizon.com/volunteer. There's really something out there for everyone. And we really want to make sure that you help us move forward and that you can engage, because you've been asking for that, and we've done our best to meet your needs. But we also are going to continue to add to the portal, and there are ways that you can give us ideas and suggestions. All of that will be available to you later today. Now, one of the things that I really want to highlight that's tied to June 10th is a virtual volunteer event that I am particularly excited about. It came together in partnership with our amazing, bold ERG. Many of the great civil rights leaders stated and started their movement for reform and reforming and changing our country by organizing walks as a way to demonstrate solidarity and peacefully demand change, right? We all know what happened in Selma. We've seen the walks along the way. We participated in a lot of different ways in encouraging change. So we're going to take that same approach. And we are going to actually have a company-wide virtual walk. Starting today through July 4th, you can participate in the Bold Steps Forward, a virtual walk for racial justice, and you can sign up through the volunteer portal. No matter where you are in the world, this virtual walk is the perfect opportunity to coordinate with your team members, get your family involved, and our goal is to get the full force of Verizon engaged. So here's how it works. When you go into the portal and you sign up, for every employee that participates, we are going to donate $10 up to $750,000 to the Equal Justice Initiative. When you go in and sign up, there's some actions that you can take immediately. You can register to vote. If you have moved, relocated, if your young people in your household are now of voting age, let's make sure that people are registered to vote. You can also engage in some initiatives that will educate you and allow you to participate in a dialogue with family or friends around equity and social justice issues. You can also decide to donate to an organization in your community that's advocating for civil rights. So sign up and take that immediate action. When you do that, then you can start engaging in your walk. You can bring together some friends in a social distancing way. You can actually go out biking in your neighborhood. You can bring anyone together, however, your family, what makes sense for you. And then as you are engaging, we have a whole toolkit of ways that you can demonstrate what you are doing via social media. So it's really sort of 3 steps. Go to the portal, sign up, take some actions, and then get your walk on in order to participate and to engage. And you can do that through July 4th. I'm excited. I signed up last night. I will be getting my walk on beginning this afternoon, by the way, people. So let's participate. In addition to that, I want to make sure that I address some of the questions that we've gotten around our $10 million commitment to the 7 civil rights organizations. There's been a lot of conversation about, what are they doing? How are you working with them? How did you choose them? And so just to be clear, we were very thoughtful in these partners who have a long-standing relationship with Verizon, but frankly have a long-standing relationship to driving change in the community. So I'll give you a few examples of conversations that we've begun with their CEOs to ensure that there is the ability to continue their work, but also accountability in their partnership with us. So the NAACP is an organization, Christy just referenced them. They have been engaged in voting rights and voter registration issues for decades. That is what they do. And so a part of our funding and partnership is to enable them to continue that work. We also have a partnership now with the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. They are committed to social justice, and they have a firm commitment that the struggle really revolves more than just one group. It has to be an integrated group of people who are on the front lines making a difference. We've asked them to use their funding to focus on economic empowerment, because a part of lifting the community and lifting African Americans is ensuring that there is financial opportunity, and that comes through jobs, that comes through job training, that comes through building out small businesses. So they are going to partner with us in that regard. And then the Legal Defense Fund will focus on criminal justice reform. The Legal Defense Fund is one of America's top legal organizations that's fighting for racial justice. They do this work better than anyone. Brown versus Board of Education, that is their work. If you were paying attention last week, their CEO was testifying before Congress and talking about the issue of criminal justice reform. So they are an amazing partner, and we're really excited about the work that we're going to do with them. So that's an example of 3 of the organizations that we are partnering with of the 7. The rest of the organizations similarly will be doing this type of work. And even today, the National Urban League is holding one of their major conferences. Jeremy's going to talk more about it. And we have Verizon employees who are actively engaged with them. So listen, there are opportunities for you to volunteer. There is work that we're doing to ensure that we are aligned with BOLD and other organizations, and there is a huge commitment to working with the organizations that were funded to help move the initiative and the work forward. So Jeremy,
Rose,
back over to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good. Got a couple here coming your way. And like you mentioned, the National Urban League is holding an event today. Prima, if you want to go and roll that video, they're hosting their National Legislative Policy Conference today and tomorrow. This morning, Donna Epps from our policy team was presenting, talking about 5G. And this is a virtual conference which brings together members of Congress, elected state leaders, and community advocates from around the country. We are presenting sponsor. Verizon is. Craig Silliman will also present, as well as Lauren Lovewright and Justina Nixon Santil, discussing how we're closing the digital divide with technologies like 5G and how Verizon is supporting criminal justice reform. And Rose, that leads me to one of my next questions for you here. We talk a lot about Verizon Innovative Learning. How are we still helping those students today, so many that are in the community that we've talked so much about?
Yeah, so here's what's really important to understand with Verizon Innovative Learning. If you look at the profile of our students, about a third of them happen to be African American. But in general, the state of education is such that research is showing that about 70% of children, no matter what their ethnicity, no matter what school district they're in, are going to go back to school this fall, and they're going to be behind. So what we have done is really lean in with our Verizon Innovative Learning students to ensure that they will have resources over the summer to help them further their learning, but also really giving them more content and information around math, because that's going to be one of those areas that all the educators suspect is going to be really hard for students to catch up to. And so we're giving them sort of some apps and some platform and content and information that allow the teachers and the parents to help their kids with math and then to help them get up to speed overall. You see how I worked in up to speed, Jeremy? Did you catch that?
I do. I appreciate that, Rose. Thank you so much. Final thought for you, Rose. How will people know that all of these volunteer opportunities and what they're doing out in the communities, how will they know that it's truly making a difference?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's several things. First of all, you personally need to internalize it and understand the impact that you personally are making. You need to follow up with the organizations that you are working with and talking to, and you can see that impact that you're having. And, you know, Jeremy, I'm a big believer that change is one person at a time. And so while we monitor every single thing that we ever do, sometimes it's really being able to talk to those organizations and at some point have them help you understand who was on the other end of the work that you did. And that's how you know that you are going to make a difference. We have big problems in our world, and we're not going to solve them overnight, but we can't run away from the effort that we have to put into ensuring that we are doing our part.
Yep, that is very insightful. Can't run away from that. You got to address it head on. Rose, thank you so much. And for folks who are interested in volunteering opportunities, you can go to verizon.com/volunteer to sign up. Christy, want to go back to you. Final thoughts on the day.
Thanks, Jeremy, and thanks, Rose. I'm always so inspired when I get to hear about all the amazing things Rose and the team are doing, leading Verizon's commitment to society and the ways in which our volunteering can make a difference. So please, I know I'm going to be signing up and joining on to the walk, and I look forward to us maxing out and seeing that donation gets made at the highest level that Rose described. I would also like to just end where I opened, which is today we reached a huge Supreme Court decision, and that was based on lots of people caring and working together over years across individuals and companies and society. And so when sometimes there's darkness and we feel like being hopeless, there is reason for hope, and we can't ever give up. And so I agree with Rose that everybody has to engage individually and reflect on what we know, how can we learn more, how can we be part of the change, and even if it's not something we have experienced, or maybe we live in communities that may not be as diverse or have experienced these issues, there's always more that we can learn and figure out and find out what that's like for the citizens in our country who are not experiencing the racial justice that we have committed in our Constitution to the citizens of the country. So I really think that this is a time where if we reflect as individuals, we grow through the platforms we're going to give people to learn and grow. And then we continue to help people keep thriving here. And we take all of that goodness and we help share it with society. We can be part of the change we want to have come to life. And it's a similar way that we're going to actually survive COVID. We have to actually take individual action to be willing to follow safety protocols, wear facial coverings, be respectful of one another. If we're not feeling well, don't come and expose other people to us. Use hand sanitizer, only work at stations that are allocated for working. If we're in touchless retail or in dispatch, following all the safety measures that we've put in place, and report things you're concerned about to supervisors. And it will be through our collective behavior that we achieve success against COVID, this silent enemy. So I think so many things to be reflected on today, but tie through all three of the key topics we talked about. And what I think is so encouraging is we have this amazing B team, which is, 135,000 people, family members and the like, 500,000 people strong. And so we can help be that change. And so, Jeremy, that's what I'd like to leave everybody with as we start the week.
Good. Christy, thank you for that, and a great reminder. And like if Hans were here today, he'd tell us all to make sure we reach out to those that we haven't talked to in a while, or have the names on the card that we can reach out and check on our network of folks, because it will take us all together to get through whatever life throws our way. So I want to thank both Christy and Rose for joining us today. Tomorrow we'll continue our conversation about race with a really in-depth conversation with some of our male leaders about that. But we will be back with you tomorrow at noon. Until next time, you are up to speed.